let's see how she goes. Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're gonna be going over a 2021 Toyota Highlander XSE. This is such a cool vehicle, and you guys are about to see why, but first and foremost, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry Miller Toyota here in Murray for giving me some time with this Highlander. Check out their inventory in the link below. Let's get straight into the video. Now going under the hood of the XSE, we have a naturally aspirated 3.5 liter V6 that goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Fuel economy is 20 around town and then 27 on the highway, with power outputs being 295 horsepower and then 263 pound-feet of torque. Now let's go to the front end of the Highlander XSE. So first off, you've got the normal Highlander hood. Nothing has changed with that, but notice that you've got the full LED lights and then how the housing is all blacked out. Makes it look a little bit sportier. And then you do have this little blacked out trim piece right there that's kind of like, you know, fake venting, but I still think it looks cool. Fog lights down below at the bottom, and then you've got your signature Toyota logo with a blacked out front grille, and then this is kind of like dark metallic gray for this little area, and then they did another kind of like metallic silver in that little area. So a lot of colors happening here on the front end, but overall I think it's a pretty good looking front end. It's kind of got a lot happening, but I still think it looks good. Now coming around the side here, we've got two 35mm tires wrapped around 20-inch wheels in the front and over in the rear as well. And then this does come with sport tuned suspension and torque vectoring. Yes, on the Mommy Mall Crawler Toyota, you have sport tuned suspension and torque vectoring. Pretty cool. But actually popping up, you can see that the design on the wheels is similar to what they have on the other XSE Toyotas. I think it looks really good with the mixture of the black and then the silver. And then also you've got the little tiny fender flare wrapped around. And then that silver trim there on the front continues here on the side. They have blacked out the mirrors. And then other than that, here is your full side view on the XSE, which pretty good looking. Now let's pop into the back of the Highlander XSE. So first off, we do get the little Highlander floor mats, and then if we pop that up and you pick this up, you got some extra storage space and then all that kind of stuff if you get stuck on the side of the road. Now this does have a third row. You can see that that one's folded up and that one's folded down, so you can see the extra storage space you get. But if you want the third row back, then you just have to pull this little strap right there, and then you do have to manually fold the headrest back up, and then it does have the little like recline function. You can see recline versus not. So definitely some stuff happening back there, but other than that, that's the back of the Highlander. Now here's the door panel in the rear of the Highlander. So first off, you actually have nice soft touch all over this portion of the door panel where you're going to rest your arm, and it actually continues pretty low onto the door panel. And then there are rear sunshades here in the Highlander. And then here are the seats, which I actually really like the look of the seats. So you've got the soft touch on most of the seats, and then you have the cloth trim here in the center, which I think the design on that's pretty cool. And just like as an overall look, I think the seats look good. But let's actually pop in. So first off, you have to duck a little bit, but stepping in, you pretty much just slide right across. If I sit all the way up, I've got a good amount of headroom. So I feel like if someone was, you know, probably like 6'3", 6'4", then they might touch the top. I'm 5'11", and then you can see my legroom's pretty good. You can control the climate from back here. It does have its own climate zone, and then you've got a couple little USBs right there, a couple of cup holders, and then the second row passengers do get these little armrests. But well, we got to pop into the back, so I got to kind of squeeze back here. Ooh. I feel like that just looked really funny on camera, but I am in the back, and as you can see, I kind of like with my hair. But anyways, if you haven't like the full recline mode, then you can kind of fit back here. But if I had the seats up, my head would be going into the top. And well, legroom is also pretty much non-existent, but I do have some cup holders, and that's all that matters, folks, is I can still have my drinks while my legs are getting crushed. Now here's the door panel at the front of the Highlander. So first off, got the soft touch all around this portion of the door panel, and you got the nice metallic trim just up above. All over window controls, and then you got your door lock and unlock with the mirror adjustment. And then here are the seats at the front. So again, full soft touch over all of the seats, and then you got the nice cloth trim right there on the center portion of the seats. There's your adjustments there on the side of the seat, and then the Highlander floor mat. Got the pedals just down below on your gas cap release. You have the release there for the hatch, and then the steering wheel is manually adjustable. But there's one more look before we pop in. our steering wheel in the Highlander XSE. So first off, we've got nice soft touch all around the steering wheel itself, and you got like darker stitching there in the center portion. And then coming over here, we do have our cruise control there on the front of the steering wheel, and then you got your modes and everything for the radio, your lane departure assistance, your collision assistance, and then controls for the center stack with your volume and voice command controls over here on that part of the steering wheel. And then you do have the stock for the turn signal and the lights right behind it, and then your windshield wiper stock on the other side. And that's everything for the steering wheel. Now coming into the center part of the Highlander, they kind of do a mix between analog gauges and then that big screen there in the very center. I think the analog gauges look really good with the Highlander. And then as for that center screen, there's basically just a couple different menus that you can scroll through that gives you different bits of information on the vehicle. You can look at your music, for example, here from the center screen, your safety tech, and your fuel economy. So basically just shows you any bit of information that is really important and that you'd want to see. Now the other cool part is you do have the drive mode select. I'll show you guys the buttons in just a little bit, but here are the different drive modes. So you got your sport, and then you can press down for your normal and then your eco. Notice that like the sport shows right at the bottom of the screen, and then you've got like the eco that shows kind of like the blue. And then you do have a couple more drive modes. So on one side you've got your mud and your sand, and then on the other side you've got your rock and your dirt, and it gives you a little graphic for that. And then again, you can go back to the normal mode from all of that. Doesn't change anything with the gauges, but it at least notifies you. Here's the center infotainment system for the Highlander. First off, if we pop into reverse, you guys can see you've got the backup camera. Resolution on it's pretty good. The trajectory lines do not turn with the steering wheel. Now, as for the rest of the infotainment system, response time when you press buttons is pretty good, and it's just like Toyota's other infotainment systems, so it responds well, it looks pretty good. It's not as cool as we can get like in the fully loaded Highlanders, but I mean, it gets the job done, and it has all the features and functions that you basically want from an infotainment system. And sorry about the reflection and glare. Can't help that with the sun and the fact that this is like super, super dark. Now, just down below, we do have the climate controls here for the Highlander, and you've got the heated seat controls, which I don't know why the passenger heated seat was turned on, but it is a dual zone climate. No air conditioned seats, just heated seats. That's where the AC button would go. And then you do have the hazard light button just down below with the vents, but that's not the cool part. The cool part is, you guys can probably see this trim right here, and it continues up here. Yes, we do get carbon fiber trim in the Highlander. It's a mommy mall crawler SUV, but it's got cool carbon fiber. Now this is just kind of like extra little storage where you can put your phone or whatever you want, and then really nice leather here with the stitching throughout, and then you have a bunch of areas where you can charge devices, all that kind of stuff. And then here's the shifter for the 8-speed automatic. It does have a manual mode. A couple of cup holders in this area, and then we've got our parking brake and then our auto hold. I'm not a really big fan of auto hold. It's nice for hills, so you can just like let your foot off the brake, but other than that, for like regular around town driving, not a huge fan of it in most cars. And then we do have our drive mode select, so you can see you've got your first little area, so just for your eco, normal, and sport. And then this is like your off-road drive mode select, so you've got like two different buttons that go through the drive modes. And then you got your stability control, and then you've got another button for drive modes, which is the snow mode. And then you got your hill descent control, and then your auto stop start. And then as for the center console, nice materials here on the top with the stitching. You can fold it back right like that, and then you do get the wireless phone charger, which you actually can pick up. And then you got some more storage underneath. It's like a whole system, but like it works well and it looks cool. Now back to the carbon fiber dash. We actually have grippy material in here, so if you put stuff in here, it's not going to slide around. And then we do have the glove box, which the size of it's pretty normal. And then right here again, more of that soft touch with all of the stitching. Up top here, we do get a traditional sunroof, all black headliner. Got the sunglass holder with the mirror so you can stare at your kids, and then you do have just a traditional mirror, and other than that, that's the top of the Highlander. Now that we're done going over the interior of the Highlander XSE, let's quickly get into the pricing. So in terms of pricing, this Highlander XSE stickers for about $47,000, which I feel like is a pretty decent deal for being a relatively loaded Highlander with a towing capacity of about 5,000 pounds, and you know, all the cool interior bits, and then also the sporty driving experience, which we'll get into that right now. And so yeah, let's take it out and see how it drives. Let's go over visibility here in the Highlander XSE. First off, we got the visibility over the hood, which is just like any other Highlander. And then you've got your visibility through both the mirrors. They do have blind spot monitoring. And then we've got the visibility throughout the rest of the rear, which You can see with all the seats and everything, you can imagine if you had people in the seats, it would block the visibility a little bit. So it's a good thing this has the blind spot monitoring. And well, I think I said XSE correct every single time in today's video. So let's set off. As you can see, we are setting off here in the 2021 Highlander XSE. And I guess this truck is trying to race us. Well, the truck won. It sounds pretty good too. But starting off here in the Highlander, first off, from a road noise and ride quality perspective, the Highlander definitely rides really smooth. I'd rate it at average for the segment. All these like third row SUVs in this size range, so think Kia Telluride, Hyundai Palisade, Dodge Durango, Ford Explorer, the list goes on and on and on for a million years. They all ride really smooth, and the Highlander is no different. Even in this XSE package, which is supposed to have, again, the sports tune suspension and all that kind of stuff, which you'd think would make it ride rougher, it doesn't. And then from a noise perspective, you hear a little bit from the tires, but that's average for pretty much any car ever. There's nothing, I don't hear any more, any less tire noise is what I'm trying to say. And so initially with the Highlander, it's quiet, it's smooth, and I mean, that's what you want from a third row SUV that you're just going to be taking your kids around. Something to note is with how the gauges are set up and everything, it's pretty low down there. And so you definitely have to, like, I have to like look down pretty far to see the gauges versus like looking over the dash, which is definitely, takes a second to get used to. It's definitely different. Turns like a bigger third row SUV. Like, it doesn't feel any different from any of the competitors. I'm not noticing a ton. Again, it does have that torque vectoring system. I mean, it handles great, but I don't feel like it handles any different. I'll kind of try some stuff up here and see if it's any different. But so far, knock on wood, not noticing a huge difference. Well, we're gonna be going over these little train tracks. And by the way, I am popping it into sport mode for the acceleration. And the train tracks don't really upset it, but let's see how she goes. Those gear shifts are really nice. So the gear shifts are definitely really smooth, which that's another nice little trait here of the Highlander. Now I am gonna pop into the manual mode and see how it responds there in the manual mode. I totally upshifted when I meant to downshift, my bad. Okay. Yeah, really smooth, they're quick too. I like this transmission. I think it's a great transmission. From an acceleration standpoint, it's right where it needs to be with the competitors. You guys heard the power figures, so if you get like a V6 Durango, you're gonna be about the same. If you get the Hybrid Explorer, gonna be about the same acceleration-wise. Kia Telluride, Hyundai Palisade, again, the list goes on forever. The acceleration's just like all of its competitors. And then I kind of drove it a little bit more. I'm still not really noticing a difference. I mean, it does handle great for an SUV. Like, I don't feel a ton of body roll. There is still a little bit, but I mean, it's not a lot. So maybe that's kind of what it's benefiting with the Sport Tune suspension and the torque vectoring system, is it kind of reduces the body roll a little bit. But other than that, it's not really intrusive, and I'm not really noticing, I guess, like a huge difference with this. And that actually gave me into summing things up with this Highlander XSE. So this package is pretty interesting. So they're trying to like obviously put kind of like they're kind of like I'm gonna make up a word right now. They're trying to sportify. That is a word now. Sportify the Highlander. They're trying to take the Highlander and make it sporty, because a lot of people like now have stigma against SUVs. It used to be minivans, but now like people don't really care as much, and now it's kind of like SUVs. Like, there's some stigma, like people are like, oh, I don't want to drive an SUV, I want something sporty. And so now car manufacturers are trying to release these sporty packages, and that's what Toyota's doing here. Is they're taking their practical third row SUV that you're going to buy because you need to take your kids around, but they're making it look cool, and they're giving it some, you know, sports car technology to make it drive a little bit better, so then it's kind of like more of a fun, engaging vehicle. And that's pretty much what this is it's just Toyota basically playing to what the market wants. The market either wants off-road SUVs or sporty SUVs. This is a sporty SUV. Is it crazy, like, you know, performance-wise? No, but it looks really good. It's practical. It drives really well. And I mean, what else could you want in a third row SUV that you're just going to use to take your kids around? I think it's great. Now, that is going to sum things up for our video on this 2021 Toyota Highlander XSE. And again, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry Miller Toyota here in Murray for giving me some time with this Highlander XSE. Check out the inventory in the link below. I'll see all of you in the next video.